what's the current mood then with, say, Eddie Howe and just the fans going into this season ahead? Going to be some battling teams going in for those Champions League spots. Obviously, you've got the regular faces, but so yeah, what do you reckon?
It's always difficult to gauge the entire view of the fan base. I think it's split to a certain degree. I mean, there's a lot of sort of understanding and mitigation for what happened last season, but there's anticipation for what could happen this season. Newcastle have theoretically a far nicer start to the season fixture-wise on paper than they did last season, and so there's optimism that Newcastle could start well as they did the pre-season before that and get positive momentum, which they can build. There's still work to do in the transfer market, but finally they've replaced Dan Ashworth as sporting director. Paul Mitchell's come in and he's come in with a huge reputation. So there is still belief that Newcastle can and will have a good season, but I also think that there's a fair amount of pressure on the first few fixtures of the season, given the way that last season ended, given that they didn't get into Europe, given the maybe concerns about areas of the squad, injuries, some questions starting to creep in about Eddie Howe tactically, which I think are unfair, but that happens at any club if things start to go a little bit wrong. I think that he and everyone around Newcastle recognises the need to start the season positively, to really build into it. And if they can get some decent points on the board early on, then that just takes the pressure off everyone, and then they can actually focus on improving throughout the season. That's what Eddie Howe sides tend to do. Historically, his teams finish the season well. They even finished last season well, even if they're, in terms of number of points they accrued post the March international break. So I think if they can start the campaign well, that'll build everyone's hopes. But hopefully there'll be a couple of decent and exciting signings coming in beforehand, because it feels like Newcastle fan base just needs a little bit more of injection of optimism going into that new season, just to really build on the last couple of campaigns.
And Chris, Kieran McKenna, obviously you're a very young manager, been linked to loads of different clubs, done the unthinkable, really, the automatic, back promotions, which I don't think many Town fans were expecting last year, but they're now back in the big time. How do you reckon they can do? We're hopefully going to make some signings and stuff like that, yeah, but it's going to be a task. We've seen already, the last few years, teams go up and they go straight back down. Hopefully Town can change that, but what do you reckon?
I've been quietly impressed from a distance with some of the business already. I think and they obviously have a core group of players who've played together and done well together, and I think that understanding will be important. And as cliched as it maybe is, the sort of team spirit that is there, I think will serve them in good stead. I do see some comparisons with Luton, but I think that Ipswich maybe have a little bit more know-how, and although the Ipswich themselves and some of the squad haven't been in the Premier League, obviously they have players who have been in that sort of environment before and been in relegation scraps and challenging that sort of level. So I think they have a good chance. I'm not saying that Ipswich will definitely survive, but I don't think it'll be a come up and then completely flounder in a sort of Sheffield United way. I do think Ipswich will give it a very good go, and I think it'll go down to the latter parts of the season, and then it's just whether they can actually finally get over the line and make sure they stay up.